So far, as we've talked about submission, we've heard about the submission of Christ and his willingness to give his life for us and to deny himself. We've heard also the testing of Abraham and seen the example of his faith and obedience. And today we turn to the example of Paul from Galatians chapter 2, verses 19 through 21. Paul writes, "For through the law I died to the law, so that I might live to God. I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but it is Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not nullify the grace of God, for if justification comes through the law, then Christ died for nothing." Well, this particular passage actually has some meaning for me because it takes me back more than 25 years ago. It takes me back to closer to 30 years ago when I was a young pastor in Pennsylvania, and I became involved in the Greater Philadelphia Billy Graham Crusade, and I was on the prayer committee for that event. And through my work on that crusade, I got to meet an older man who served with a group called the Navigators. And the Navigators are a Christian group that focuses on discipleship, and they place a big emphasis on memorizing Scripture. And this older gentleman, who kind of took me under his wing a little bit, gave me a set of Scriptures to memorize. And the very first one was Galatians 2, verses 19b through 20, which I shared about this past Sunday in my message on submission. And why that verse is so significant is because it's the idea of I'm no longer living my life in a sense, but I no longer live. The life I now live, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. And so I no longer live for myself. I truly am seeking to live for Christ. And I want to live my life. I want you to live your life as a follower of Jesus, so that if Jesus were you, if Jesus was living your life, what would he do? How would he act? What would he say? How would he treat his family members? How would he go about his day, this day, if Jesus were living your life? That's, for me, part of how I try to think about this passage from Galatians chapter 2. And always remembering that twofold emphasis, that he loved me and gave himself for me. So how can I love Jesus in return and give myself for him? That's part of what we learn from the example of Paul, who clearly, from his conversion on to his own death, gave Jesus everything he had. Go to live this day for the one who loves you and gave himself for you.